Tasha, thank you so much for coming in studio and chatting with me today.
Thank you, gorgeous.
No, you're gorgeous.
No, you are.
It's the tall girl, brown girl power.
Yes,
I love it. I love
yes,
it.
It is.
It's such a pleasure to meet you because your story is so aligned with so many extraordinary things. Just your story of overcoming and triumph and just living your dream. And so I'm going to start early in your journey, growing up in Camden, New Jersey.
Yeah,
You know, a lot of folks don't really know or can't be connected to that experience because they didn't have it. So for you, you grew up in a single parent home in Camden. And what were things like in Camden for you?
I mean, Camden. I mean, today it's still considered as one of the toughest cities in America, so, and that's today. So imagine what it was like in the 80s, or even the early 70s when I was born. Single parent home, it was about the street life, honey. Okay. It was about the street life.
Yes.
I mean, it was like crack cocaine entered into the world and probably first stopped in Camden. Okay.
Yes.
So everyone in my neighborhood, it was about the drug dealers. It was about the pimps. It was about just, I guess the only thing positive I could really remember within my community was probably this little Seventh-day Adventist church that my family had taken me to called Mount Olivet. I don't know. It was just rough. It was very, very, very rough.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I'm from Baltimore, born and raised.
Right.
In the city, single parent home. My mom worked 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. every single day. And so I know what it was like as far as room for error.
Right.
And a lot of people take that for granted. And so in that process, you saw a lot of things and you ended up doing a lot of things. But there was this light, this vision that you had as a little girl. Tell me about your childhood dream where you could see this dream. What was the dream? And tell me what you could see.
Honestly, I mean, as a kid, I always had a dream to be an actor. But the circumstances of my environment had made me feel like I probably wouldn't make it past 21, to be honest, or 18. I mean, I didn't really see myself succeeding, really, although I had this dream. That dream seemed like a figment of my imagination. It seemed like it was very far away, like this is something that's like a fantasy, not even a dream, but just a fantasy that could never really happen. But it was something I always talked about. I used to even tell people, one day I'm going to go to Hollywood. One day I'm going to go to Hollywood. And at the time, I didn't know the power of our words, and the power even of our vision. And no matter what circumstances or environment we're brought up in, there's power in vision and power in words. And it's something, I mean, that my words, I felt like created opportunity for me. And also created a lot of faith inside of me because it wasn't like I was like a believer in God or anything like that as a kid. I mean, although I went to church with my family sometimes, I really didn't know God existed. You know what I mean? So I didn't really have that to stand on. And I just really had this vision inside of my soul that saw me here in Hollywood. You know what I mean? And then before you know it, when I was 18, I moved to California. I met a friend when I was about 15, 16, named Tasha Campbell Martin, who had promised me if I ever wanted to come to California that she and her mother would help take care of me and would give me a place to stay. And eventually I ended up taking them up on that offer and moved to California, and they ended up doing that. But I think the experiences that I had in Camden and just the rough stuff that I had to experience, it gave me more courage in Hollywood.
And and it's funny, I loved hearing you telling this story about when Tasha Campbell came to your house at 16.
Right. And we cleaned it up, made spaghetti. She sat down and a mouse ran over her foot.
But in that, I think that, like you said, it was a very strong bond that was built between the two of you.
Right.
But now once you got to LA and you started to live this dream, you realized that this dream was a real hustle. You talked about having to sleep in your car and take a bath at the beach.
Yeah.
What were you, how did you even go into a space where you got there?
I was hungry. I was passionate. I was like, I didn't want to quit and give up too quickly. You know what I mean? I just said, let me exhaust all options. Even before I was humble enough to go and to reach out to Tasha and her mom, I had this little Ford Escort car. and I literally had all my blankets and pillows. I had an apartment for a short period of time, and then I ended up getting evicted. I slept in my car under my pillows and blankets. And then in the morning, I would get up and I would go wash up in the bathroom at the beach. Even to this day, when I walk through Venice Beach, and I just remember those times. But I just felt like I needed to do everything I needed to do before I gave up and moved back to Jersey. Like, I didn't want to go back to Jersey. I felt like I would die if I went back to Jersey. I felt like I would end up in jail if I went back to Jersey. I didn't see anything good out of my life if I went back to Camden. So I just had to do everything that I needed to do, and it was hard, it was rough. But it's something about that experience that gave me so much like just texture and so many layers as an artist. It gave me so much humanity and so much empathy for humanity. Like, even when we discuss later my movie When Love Kills, it gave me the ability to tell that story in a very authentic and honest and grounded way. Like, what I experienced, I would never want to change it. It's funny, I have a friend that's a filmmaker, and he grew up very, very, very privileged, he calls it. He's from Lebanon, he's French Lebanese, and he calls it privileged. I call it wealthy.
Wealthy.
Okay?
Well,
He's like, I grew up very privileged. I'm like, no, you grew up rich,
right.
Okay? Your ass grew up rich, okay? So he said that sometimes, and we're very good friends, we're from very different environments. I didn't grow up privileged, right? And he says that his, he wishes that he had the waitress or waiter, waiting tables experience, because he never had to do that. He never had to really struggle. You know what I mean? So he feels like it may have taken away some of his hunger and drive for what he's doing as a filmmaker. And I'm like, well, you can have that experience, if you like, if you want it. But I was like, and so that's where I come in as his friend, because I've had that experience. You know what I mean? I've had that experience where I had to work for everything. Nothing was ever given to me.
Right.
And so I'm able to help him even with what he's doing. And he's even able to help me with what I'm doing, because everything I did came off of me having to have faith in myself to do it. Like, nothing was given to me. I had to believe for it. I had to work hard, and I had to believe. I had to have faith and action in order to get what I got in life.
Yes, faith and action. And
you feel me?
It's so interesting, Tasha, because I'm telling you, I could talk to you all day, honestly, because like, this is just like, so many people don't understand the significance of the actual the real struggle.
Right.
Like, when you don't have these doors open for you. And so when you meet people like your friend who come from privilege, come from access, what is it like to impart that gift to them, because they don't have that gift?
Well, it's like, through friendship, and I used to always say this, through friendship, we gain experience, in life, like life's experience. That's why I like to travel to Europe a lot, because I get a chance to experience life that I would not have had I not had the experience of the friends from different cultures and, going to the Middle East and meeting people. I feel like I get a chance to share, just another reality. Like, I'm sorry, I got lost a little bit on your question.
You're
Can
good.
you repeat that question to me again?
It was just like, what is it that you do for them? What does that experience sharing do for the people who don't have that experience?
Right. I think, I don't even know how to sum that answer up, to be honest. Like, I just think that, even me telling the story about New Jersey and sharing experiences that I've gone through, and encouragement, to be able to do things that sometimes a person that may be more privileged may not know how to have faith to do. I don't even really know how to really communicate it or word it, other than just saying, through honest human reality, we get a chance to understand humanity, in a different way, just being who we are, just talking, conversing, whether it's holidays, you may have never experienced a real soul food Thanksgiving, you may have never known what it was like to grow up in a household of a parent that was dealing with addiction, or you may have, but because you were privileged, you handled and dealt with it, or the experience of it was different. You follow what I'm saying?
For sure.
I mean, but regardless of what we experience, and I always say this even to him, that pain is pain. Pain doesn't have a culture. It doesn't have wealth, a color. It doesn't have, any kind of financial stability that's attached or not attached to it. Pain is pain. Disappointment is disappointment. That's why as artists, we're able to tell so many different stories, because we can relate.
Yeah.
We can relate to people that need love. Everybody needs love. We can relate to people that need power. We can relate to people that may deal with rejection or disappointment or betrayal or whatever those things are that these characters are going through, because it's a human thing. It's universal. And it doesn't have a financial stability attached to it, a culture, a race, a color, gender.
And what's awesome about your story is that you speak about a mentor of yours, Ivana.
Chubbick.
Yes.
She would love that you mentioned her.
Yeah, I mean, because I think that role of mentorship in anyone's life is important.
Yeah.
But one thing that you said in the interview was that, you didn't know how to deal with your emotions, and she kind of helped you with that process. And now you're doing the same thing with T-Saw and the young people that you work with, or any age actor that you work with. So how do you take those emotions and translate those into characters that you not only act, but you also now direct and write?
Right. It's the same thing that I was just saying to you before. Understanding humanity has and emotion even has no color. I didn't know that what I felt as a young girl growing up, the anger, the fear, the insecurity, the rejection, the disappointment. I didn't know that all of that was useful to my art. I didn't know it, but Ivana, being my mentor and acting and my dear friend, she showed me how to convey it, how to put it in the right place so that I could develop characters and develop stories and that whole thing, as well as help other actors to be able to develop their art, their instrument, by using those things to be able to personalize and, use it as a source of emotion for whatever character they're working on. And so it's a blessing to know that you have it for your art.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's a blessing to know that it's something that you utilize to tell your story, and that it's a gift and not a curse.
And to have that perspective, you often speak about, tapping into that faith and that belief system. And I read that at one point you were an atheist, which I find to be interesting. And you say at about 25 years old, you had this moment where things just switched. I got to know about the switch, because so much about it is, I hear you, and I know you grow up. You said you were in the church when you were young, but it was like a disconnect, and you was like, is God real? How can God be real if I walk outside and I see, heroin addicts or friends being murdered and things like that? And so how did this moment come about for you where you just had this switch?
Wow. I just had a very personal experience with a step-grandfather that had passed away, and I had that little moment where I had challenged God, if you real, God, do this, that kind of experience. And when I did that, God really did show himself to me. It just really made me believe that there was a power higher than myself, who I came to know as God, and yeah, it was an experience that changed my life. And it was an experience that made me believe in the Lord and have a faith and a groundedness in the Lord, and faith in a way that, I feel saved my life.
So let's talk about your film. Hit a lick.
Yeah.
Hit a lick.
No. When Love Kills.
Okay.
I know, right? They changed the name. They changed the name.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we can edit this out, y'all.
Yeah.
Okay. So When Love.
I know.
Kills.
The Felicia Blakely story.
Okay.
Isn't that deep?
Oh, well, we're going to get into that. Okay. All right. So let's talk about that. When Love Kills. Now, it's interesting this character, Felicia, I feel like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, right? This is your long directorial debut.
My feature.
Your feature, right? So tell me about Felicia.
Wow. Okay, Felicia is a young girl that came from Atlanta who was brought up in a single parent home, who had a kid, who didn't have her father in her life, who ended up working at a strip club, who ended up falling in love with different men until she met the character Dino, who she fell deeply in love with, who she believed she was working towards a family and that she was working towards a future with this man. And he manipulated her and used that vulnerability to get her to what the streets call hit a lick, to do these robberies, to set up these guys and commit these crimes, but going in as like a stripper, call girl, prostitute, and basically setting up these guys who eventually she ended up committing a few murders and spending the rest of her life in jail. But this character, Dino, was a predator, and he worked on her vulnerability. He worked on her innocence. He worked on her desire and passion to be loved. And she needed love in such a way that I feel like it just became like a mental thing. And this is my personal opinion, I mean, I don't know that she was fully there, you know what I mean? Because she got so engulfed in this guy.
And the escape, right?
Right. I mean, I'm sorry, say that
and
again.
The escape, like
of
the
just, the love, the relationship, the future she was building with this man, or that she believed she was building, and the crimes that she began to commit, believing that it was for their greater good. You know what I mean? I mean, and it ended up costing her her life.
Wow. So when you were directing this film, tell me about the parallels between the Camden Tasha and the character.
Yeah, I mean, coming from Camden, New Jersey, and me having my experience in strip clubs as a young girl, not that I ever experienced any girls hitting licks like that or committing any real crimes like that. I mean, I knew some women that did do some level of prostitution and did dance and, that whole thing. But even aside from the strip club and aside from Camden, I began over the years to meet women that were very vulnerable when it comes to love and when it comes to relationship. Now, these women didn't necessarily commit a crime, but I saw a parallel of vulnerability and predator. Mel B. I'll just use that as an example. I hate to even have to say a name, but I've seen women over the years allow themselves to be so vulnerable that they end up living in an abusive cycle within a relationship, And so for me, that was more important. Every woman does not have to commit a crime because of their love for a man. The only crime that they may commit is to themselves. You understand what I'm saying? And so I wanted to tell that story. It wasn't so much about the strip club, the hood, the this, the that. I felt like the universal part of this was a human being that was deeply in love and deeply vulnerable because her need to be loved, and a person that used that and became a predator, to end up abusing and getting someone in a place where they would eventually cause harm to themselves. You follow what I'm saying?
For sure.
And we see this a lot in America. I mean, we see it not just with black women, but we see it with white women.
In the workplace.
We see it in the workplace. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we see abuse and vulnerability in all kinds of relationships.
And it's being
told. Do you
told.
understand?
And it's told to be pushed to the side.
And it's told to be pushed to the side. We've seen women put up with stuff over the years. Their husbands being accused of sexual harassment. I'm just saying. You don't think those women are in abusive relationships and may have been so in love, and vulnerable to their spouse that they put up with crap that they should not have allowed themselves to put up with? It happens in the corporate world, in the media world, in the, entertainment world. It is
in the church world.
In the church world. It is a universal issue. So to me, Felicia Blakely's story is not just about the hood. And if people are really honest, hopefully the Dinos out there, the predators out there that take advantage of broken women, because that's what Felicia was. She was a broken woman that a man took advantage of. That's how I look at that story. She was a broken woman that a man took advantage of.
And I mean, with your voice, Tasha, that you do have, and you're very vocal about what you feel. There's no cut cards with it. How do you build up? Because you've seen a lot. Like you said, you've seen strip clubs,
Right.
you've seen prostitution, you've seen drug abuse, you've seen all these different things. How do you prevent yourself from being susceptible to the vulnerability?
I mean, listen, I had my experience of vulnerability, and I won't go too deep into this, but I got annulled a couple years ago from a con artist.
Right.
Some people say, well, how did you get caught up in that? I was vulnerable. I didn't really know. I didn't see. I believed this person. I thought I wanted love. I thought I wanted a family. And this person presented himself as something that he wasn't.
Right. And it really it compels me more often than not to think about those stories, because like you said, people say, well, why didn't you, or how couldn't you see, or these different things to make more of the victim the person who's accountable instead of looking at the perpetrator or the predator, like you just said.
To me, it's people that have that opinion are people that lack empathy and honesty from their experiences and the experiences of their loved ones. People talk so much crap, but trust me, one day a dog's gonna boo-boo on your lawn too. Okay? Okay. Yeah.
Now, when you talk about When Love Kills, for all those men, women who will view the film, what is the main thing that you really want them to take away from it? What's the takeaway?
The takeaway for the men.
Because it's not a woman thing.
What? I think the takeaway would be the men to want to empower their male community, because a lot of men have daughters. You know what I mean? A lot of men have daughters, have sisters, have mothers, have aunts. And I think that hopefully there's a level of accountability within the male community to not look at a predator like Dino's character as something cool, but something that needs to also change, because I think Dino was as broken as Felicia. You know what I mean? I mean, to me, broken people do harmful things. You know what I'm saying? And I think that with the men sometimes don't have their sense of community and mentorship and like leaders to show them how to be better men and how to be better husbands and how to be better brothers and how to be better fathers. You know what I mean? And maybe the takeaway is the conversation of what can we do to help better our presence within our community. Like, what can we do better as men to help empower? And maybe that sounds like a fantasy or a dream, but I think it would be interesting, if men came together to try to empower and encourage each other on how to be better men. Like, when I think about my friend Emil Wilbekin, who has this organization called Native Son, where he empowers gay men. It's like a mentorship for gay black men, or just maybe all men. I don't know if it's just black. I just saw a bunch of brothers. Okay. But I just thought that was beautiful what he was doing as far as trying to encourage and mentor his community of men. Well, I would love to see that happen for the brothers that are straight. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like the straight black men need that too, because, we need some help.
Okay. And there are very few role models, right? There are very few role models. And you've kind of taken that very seriously, though. Like, you're committed to.
I mean, I am. I feel like there are some role models out there. I mean, there are some black men out there that I love the way Jay-Z looks at Bey.
Yeah.
Honey, the way Jay-Z looks at Beyonce, it's like, yes. Can
Yes.
somebody look at this, please? I mean, I'm in heaven looking at how Jay-Z looks at him,
How he
looks
loves
at her.
her. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, there are some relationships out there that we can appreciate, you know? I mean, I love the way Swiss looks at Alicia. You know what I'm saying? Dope. Incredible. Salim Akil and Mara Brock Akil. Like, wow. I mean, there are a lot of beautiful relationships out here. I just wish, you know, we had more, and we had more people speaking to the brothers to help these sisters out.
Or even doing the work that you're doing, telling the actual stories to make people think and talk and have that conversation.
Yes.
So on your journey, Tasha, you know, if you could say that one thing that you've really tapped into to get you where you're going and to
get where I'm going.
To get you where you're going and to actually, you know, help you win in this whole industry, in this business, from directing to acting. What is that thing that got you to where you are?
I just think faith, hard work, and dedication. Honestly, it's hard work and dedication mixed with faith. I mean, you can't get it just by praying and thinking it's going to fall out of the sky. You got to work your butt off, okay? And you have to be consistent, and you have to continue to grow. You know, Floyd Mayweather, I just love, that's his slogan, hard work and dedication, okay? It's all about hard work and dedication. That's how you can be the champ.